What's going on, Titans Fit Nation? This is the Morning Glory Show. Thanks for tuning in. I am your host, Jake Robertson. I'm joined by our two co-hosts today. We got BWill at BWill TFTV, and we got Johnathon over at Esports Valen. How you guys doing today?
Good, man. Good. Can't complain.
Doing good. Ready to get into this, man.
Heck yeah. We'll be talking some Titans talk today. We got a couple drafts for you today. We're doing an NFL mock draft, talking specifically about the Titans. We got the combine really starting with those measurements and everything today with the defensive lineman, edge, and linebacker positions. We'll talk about a little bit of that. We got some trade targets for the Titans, and then we got our things that make you say, hell yeah, draft at the end. But if you're checking us out for the first time, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe down below. Love you, mean it. If you're watching over on Twitter right now, make sure you head over to YouTube and subscribe over there. That way we can see your comments. If you're on Twitter, we can't see them. And also, go check us out on an Apple podcast as well. Just Glory Day Sports. But let's go ahead and hop into things today. And let's go ahead and rate these Titans trade targets. So I put out, obviously, the Justin Jefferson talk has been spurring for this early into this week. I put out a little post and it kind of blew up overnight. So there's really the big three wide receivers this season that have kind of gotten that trade talk thus far, and that's Justin Jefferson, Brandon Ayuk, T. Higgins, and obviously the Titans have to get faster at that wide receiver position because they have basically, and BWill put it well as well, I think Treylon Burks is a big slot receiver. So we basically have two slots in him and Kyle Phillips, and I think DeAndre Hopkins is getting to that point where he kind of needs to move into the slot as well. So you got to get people on the outside. So I think these are three good targets, but at the same time, we're in this rebuilding phase. So BWill, who would be your number one if you were to target one of these wide receivers? Who would you do, and what would you be willing to give up?
Man, I'll be honest. If it was realistic, and the GM for the Vikings has said that they're not really receptive to it, but we said that too before we traded AJ Brown. But Justin Jefferson, you'd have to trade the house for him. I mean, he gives you absolutely everything you need. He could be an X receiver for you. He could be a slot receiver for you. He can do literally everything. He commands the presence of a defense. They got a game plan for him 3 or 4 days out the week. That just allows our other weapons to be able to get into the fold, allows guys to work underneath, allows us to get a little run game going if people are focused on Justin Jefferson if they go too high to protect the deep ball. So there's a lot of things I like with Justin Jefferson. I love Ayuk too, though. So it's sort of a 1A, 1B. I like Ayuk just because of his age, his profile, his demeanor more than anything. I mean, he's a dog, man. I'm not saying Jefferson isn't, but that showed in that playoff run and throughout the season. The 49ers, they leaned on McCaffrey, but they looked at Ayuk a lot too, and that's a really talented team to be looking at Ayuk. So I would give up whatever for Ayuk and Jefferson. I'm sort of cooled on T. Higgins. So I know that's going to disrupt or a lot of people are going to dislike that because he's from Tennessee and stuff like that. But I just don't like the price that they've tagged on him, like a 1. I would give up 38 for him, but that's absolutely it.
I'm kind of in agreement with the T. Higgins. I'm pretty much fell out of that. The only thing I do like that he is from Tennessee, but personally, injury concerns is not the best separator, and he's playing second fiddle to obviously the big guy down there. But Go ahead, Johnathon. How do you see this situation?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as you guys. I will say, going into the offseason, I was firmly in place of like, hey, throw whatever we have to get a guy, get him in here, and let's get some things going at the wide receiver position. Obviously, there's some concerns if DeAndre Hopkins was going to maybe ask out because of Derrick Henry leaving or some other things. It's clear that D-Hop is a Titan, which is fantastic. Love to see that.
Loves Nashville.
And loves Nashville, loves the team. Yep. Really, I mean, we really are lucky to have him, to be completely honest. But as far as those three guys go, I would be a huge fan of acquiring any of those guys. My only concern as a whole is that, we are void of a 3rd round pick this year. It's looking like there's some possibility of trading down from 7, acquiring more compensation. I know a lot of people are not very excited about that prospect, but I think if the board falls in a very unfortunate way, which it very well could, then the Titans might have to look to trade down and acquire more picks. And so trading away picks when your team is, we're one of the youngest teams in the league, which is great, but it's a bunch of guys on really small contracts, like prove it deals type of things outside of a couple of primary guys. So, as far as Justin Jefferson goes, I think it's obvious. It goes without saying, if you can make a trade happen where you're sending a couple first round picks, like I'm totally fine with sending 7, 20, 25 first, maybe a couple of late round picks or something like that. Whatever the package needs to look like, I'm okay with giving up that compensation for a generational talent.
Right.
And then as far as Ayuk goes, I think I said it in last week, like I'm a big fan of that trade, sending 38 or maybe some other 25 compensation, whatever that looks like, I'm cool with too. As far as T. Higgins goes, I think I'm kind of in the same boat as you guys in terms of that evaluation. I think I'm not 100% sold that he is wide receiver 1 material yet. He hasn't really shown us that, a pair of 1,000-yard seasons, but that doesn't really, show you, like, I have a lot of concerns about his game in terms of, like, second level separation, things like that. I think he's got great body control and kind of can go up and get the ball. He showed us that late in the season last year. He had a huge highlight, but a little concerned about dropping a huge bag on him, which is what it would cost. Like, that's the other thing, right? Is like, yes, the money, but do you spend that money on that player who hasn't really shown you that he's the wide receiver 1 yet? So a little concerned about T, but overall, yeah, Justin Jefferson or Ayuk, if those are options, then I think that Rand Carthon and team need to potentially pursue it. But also, if they don't happen, I think what most likely happens, to be honest with you guys, is I don't think that there's going to be any major trades for the Titans. I think they're going to value their compensation and go into this draft, a very rich draft at skill position and positions like corner. So I think that they're going to be able to add a lot of great talent without necessarily needing to give up a whole lot.
I don't think the issue with T is necessarily his ceiling, but it's sort of a combination of his play style and injury history. He's shown that he can flash and be that guy, but it's the times that he hasn't been that guy that really concerns me the most.
Right.
That's kind of how I see it.
Is the we know he has his ceiling is high. His ceiling is wide receiver 1 franchise talent. But we haven't seen it yet. And it's hard to know when you have the other side of the ball or the other side of the line is Jamar Chase. Who is that guy? So it's tough. It's tough to know exactly. And I think that some team is probably going to do it. What's most likely going to happen is he's going to play on the tag. He's not going to be happy about it. And he's going to get Jesse Bates and he's going to get bounced. And then he'll have to have production this season, or he's not going to be looking at that massive contract. But to be honest with you, it's going to be in his advantage to be real. The salary cap is going to continue to go up. Amazon money is pouring into the NFL. The sport is not suffering. It is going to continue to grow. So if anything, the number that he probably would have had to accepted this year in a massive extension is going to, like, the annual AAV is going to go up next year for him. So it's probably a good thing that he, just go ball and then you'll get your bag. So yeah, I have the same concerns.
That's really bit us in the butt too, that salary cap number.
Yeah, it kind of sucks.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like being a Titans fan in a nutshell. We get something good, and then it just bam, hey, that's too good for you. No, not for you.
So I think we're kind of all of agreement. If we could acquire one of these guys, obviously Justin Jefferson's at the top, in my opinion. That's getting Randy Moss in his prime. And then Brandon Ayuk. That San Francisco 49ers offense, everybody thrives, but he does have those flashes. And I do believe he could be a good number 1 for a team, but he's a great number 2 for somebody. And then T. Higgins, he's that prototypical X receiver for you. And we've kind of seen the NFL move to these smaller, faster guys that can separate early opposed to late. So in my opinion, if you're getting T, you get him next year. You can throw the bag at him then. Brandon Ayuk, Justin Jefferson, if I had to rank those, it's probably going to be just on draft capital. It'd be Ayuk and then Jefferson. Jefferson's going to cost you a couple first-round picks. That trade I proposed was this year's first, next year's first, a third, and then we get their Justin Jefferson in their 4th round this season. This team is lacking of talent. if you're getting rid of all that draft capital, it's only going to make it worse, I think, down the season, even if you're adding in one big name. We're not one big name away from a Super Bowl. That's just what it is.
You'd be looking like the Raiders.
Exactly.
And look, like as a fan base, like what have we seen the past couple of years? Like the tail end of John Robinson's stead was awful. Like he completely whiffed. Like after the Jeffrey Simmons, AJ Brown draft, it was all downhill for first round picks. So yeah, of course our fan base is like, sure, toss a first round pick at him. It's not gonna stick anyway. And that's just not the best way to look at it now, because not only do we know that Rand Carthon has a rich history of drafting well in the personnel departments he's been in, but we actually are like analytics driven now, instead of just like John Robinson put a dip in and be like, yeah, this guy's good. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just
the analytics department.
Yeah, I am the analytics. It's a very different front office now. So I know that it's like, it feels like, going back to someone you get cheated on with, like, but trust me, like this, I think that we're in a much better position now. So give them the chance to draft well.
It's a process. That's all it's going to be. This is not a 1 year away team. We're looking at next season. I think we could be very competitive next season, but it's the year after that. That's when that Super Bowl window opens back up, in my opinion.
Yeah.
As long as this draft capital all works in our favor. Obviously, the draft's a crapshoot. You could end up with a Traylon Burks, Caleb Farley, and Isaiah Wilson within 3 years. It can happen. Hopefully, Rand is not J-Rob, and we can move past that, but it is very unpredictable. And we're going to talk about the draft here in a minute. And the realistically part of this is we could have all these picks wrong, and all of the people that we pick could end up being busts, and the people we acquire could be great. It's just could be anywhere and everywhere above the board. Lastly, there was the talks earlier this week about L'Jarius Sneed. Going to get the tag in Kansas City is what it looks like. We actually talked about him last week on rebuilding this roster with free agency, and it seems to be a tag and trade, and I think that's more of a case than with T. Higgins. But we're looking at what this could cost the team in trade capital as well, and I see a very deep cornerback class coming out, and the difference between Sneed and some of the other talents in free agency. Looks like Jalen Johnson's going to get a long-term deal as well. But even below that, I think there's still not a huge drop-off. But you're going to have to pay these guys, too, that are below him as well. Everybody's going to get a bag this season. How do you guys land on the L'Jarius Sneed seed?
Man, with Sneed, I mean, I'm really high on him as a player. I like him a lot as a player, but I don't want to give up nothing for him, if that makes sense. We're already going to be paying him a lot if he would have hit free agency. But I just don't see the need of giving up something for him I could understand if we didn't have a defensive coordinator who's renowned with defensive backs. We've got Denard Wilson, who's renowned with defensive back, that's worked with defensive backs, had Bradbury as an all-pro. I mean, come on now. So, that sort of takes that away a little bit. It'd have been great to get him, but, if we don't get him, that's fine. Find somebody. We probably have to bring SMB back. That's the way it's looking. And find somebody in the draft, man. There's a lot of good corners in this draft.
You got to find two people. You got to find two people, and I think SMB kind of bridges that gap. You got to find somebody else though as well, if not being free agency through the draft. And then we got Roger, obviously going to man that slot. How do you land on this, Jonathan?
Yeah, for me, I see the need for Sneed. Okay, I get it, right? But I think when we were in the free agency conversation, it's easy, right? We have a ton of money. There's not a whole lot of players that are going to command or even hit the market that are going to command that type of money. So I was all in on it. But as far as I think my overall consensus around draft or trading for anything right now is it's like, does this player make an immediate impact and the compensation lost is 100% worth it? And for Sneed, you could make that argument. I'm not really sure what the draft compensation they'd be looking back is. It would not be a first round pick. But probably a second and maybe paired it with a later round pick potentially. If you're asking me, is it worth it to send 38 and like a fifth or something for Sneed? I'm leaning towards no. And the reason why I'm leaning towards no is for basically the same reason that BWill pointed out. I'm really excited about our new defensive coaches. I've been high on Chris Harris. I think giving him more than a year to work on the corners is going to make a big difference. The other secondary coaches we brought in, paired with Denard Wilson, I think are going to elevate, just like our, the Bill Callahan to our O lineman is going to elevate those players. And I'm excited to see maybe Caleb Farley getting back in it. And then, I was just thinking about this earlier yesterday. Caleb Farley getting healthy in a Denard Wilson defense. I mean, he should thrive. That player profile to him should be perfect, right? Like, he should be a press man nightmare when he gets healthy and like get him techniqued up. So and then again, a deep class at corner. I think you can get a absolute contributor to your secondary, even in the later rounds. This is a really good class. So
it is.
I'm leaning towards it's not really worth it where we're talking trade.
And I think a wide receiver is way more important than a corner to us at this moment. A corner, if we get a number one dog corner like that ain't gonna. How many wins is that going to give us next year compared to if we get a dog receiver?
Yep.
So if we're going to do some trade comp, Rand is a value guy. Let's send that to a position that's going to score touchdowns, as Brian Callahan said the other day. They're still playmakers, but the wide receivers are going to score touchdowns.
It'll be interesting how they approach this offseason with the draft and free agency, just how Denard and Callahan are huge on the perimeter-esque players and how they kind of push everything down the board. Denard put it best, I think. The ball travels faster through the air than it does on the ground. And it's how today's game is won, is by putting points on the board. And Callahan talked about it earlier this week, that if it comes down apples to apples, he's going with the guy that scores touchdowns opposed to the guy that's blocking for him. So
isn't that so refreshing to hear, man?
It's analytically driven, and we're moving out of we're moving into the 21st century. I mean, it's great to hear.
They keep saying all the right stuff, man. Like, especially I've been so impressed with Denard Wilson. I know we covered this last week, but man, everything that comes out of his mouth, I'm like, this guy, he gets it. Like, and when he talks about defensive like scheme and strategy in general, it's so refreshing. So yeah, it's going to be tough, like going into this draft and kind of predicting what they're going to do. It seems like they're showing us their entire hand. They've tipped it.
We have to remember this is lying season too, though.
Yep.
Yeah. They want you to believe that. Hey, we're going neighbors. We're going to Dunesier. And then, nope, we're just going to Joel. That's what it is. So it could go a bunch of different ways. So let's go ahead. Before we hop into this mock draft, let's go ahead and talk about our sponsor at Functional Medical Institute. Go ahead and head over to our affiliate site, sherwood.tv/glory. You can get all the stuff that Dax Hill and Justice Hill from the Baltimore Ravens, Cincinnati Bengals, they take care of their patient care, and a couple other NFL players and a couple other professional athletes. They specialize in blood work, DNA testing, hormones, peptides, supplementation, nutritional guidance, and just kind of an overall practice of kind of seeing your life up until this point and how they can treat you individually. You can check out products like Kingdom Fuel. It's their flagship products, 20 grams pea protein, full multivitamin, mixture of paleo organics, greens, reds, fibers, and essential fats and oils. You could survive off it if you wanted. Then we also have that basically in a candy bar form. Kingdom Candy comes in salted caramel crunch and peanut butter chocolate chip. And then being the Morning Glory Show, got to have your coffee. Kingdom Cup, all organic, mold-free coffee. It's a Colombian Ethiopian blend, and it's what's in my cup right now. So great, high-quality cup of coffee, just freshly roasted. After about 6 months, we throw it all away just because all coffee has a mold content in it. But you want to remove that as much as possible, and basically that grows over time. But let's go ahead and hop into this mock draft, guys. We got 6 picks in this draft. We're going to be using a site called NFL Draft Fanatics. They're a great little team over there, a little startup. Similar setup to PFF. If you get anybody in the comments is familiar with them. So basically, we're going to be going down. It's going to start with Johnathon. He'll have the first round pick. BWill go second. I'll hop into the 4th round. We'll repeat that process through the other 3 picks. But we're going to hop in here. If you guys check it out, it's just NFL Draft Fanatics. We pick the Titans. We're just going to leave it how they generically have it set up. And we're going to get started. And let's see how this first 6 picks drop.
Who goes 1? I bet you Caleb goes 1. May goes 2.
I should preface this. We aren't going to do any draft trades. I think that is a high likely that we could trade out of this 7th round pick, especially if one of these quarterbacks fall. But looking at it,
It could look like that on draft night very easily.
It very could. It very could. If Brock Bowers goes top 6, I think it is to the Chargers. Jaden Daniels, I don't think he'll last till 6. If he does, I think the Giants maybe trade out. They could improve over Daniel Jones, but they just paid him as well. Marvin Harrison should be going wide receiver 1. I actually have Neighbors over Harrison. I've been battling that for the past couple months. I officially made the move earlier this week, but I have no ifs, ands, or buts if Marvin Harrison goes 1.
Wait till he runs sub 4.4 today, or what is it, 2-3 days from now?
Neighbors isn't going to run. Harrison's not going to run. It looks like Rome is going to. He'll run his pro day is what it sounds like.
Okay.
Doesn't sound like Harrison's going to test at his pro day either. So we'll at least get to see one of these big 3 this weekend. And I believe pretty much everybody that's kind of on the board right now, I believe is testing at some point this week.
Rome's going all out for sure.
Yeah, Rome should. And I think he could enter that 1A, 1B, 1C talk. Rome.
People are going to be excited if he runs well.
I talked about it earlier this week. Rome is great at everything, but he's not really the best at any one thing. It's either Harrison's got that leg above him or Neighbors has the leg above him, but he does things better than both of those guys at something else. So let's go ahead, Jonathan. What do you think? And you got the first pick.
Yeah, so I think looking at the board and how it's fallen so far, the only thing I don't agree with how we're laying out here is I don't think Brock Bowers is going to be picked 5th overall. I think he's a fantastic talent. I think he's going to be like a top 20 pick. And I think it's going to be he's just kind of at the mercy of his position. And there's so much top talent at other positions that it's more likely, I think, the Chargers look at either a lineman or a receiver. So I think there's a good chance that either Rome Odunze is gone by pick 7. Or someone like Joe Alt or Ola is gone, and then we're choosing between one of those 2 guys. But what I firmly believe is that the Titans' big board is not in any particular order, but it's the 5 players of Alt, Fashanu, Neighbors, Marvin Harrison Jr., and Odunze. And so I think the likelihood of one of those 5 falling is very, very high. I think what's most likely is we're going to be looking at Ola or Rome Odunze. Okay. So let's say in a perfect world, we'll say Joe Alt goes to 5 or 6, right? And so we're looking at Ola and Rome Odunze in that case. Now, in this scenario, I think this is really tough. I'm torn because I think that I think what the Titans have shown us is that they value very highly playmakers. But as I've done my mock drafts and like really dove into this class as a whole, taking Rome Odunze or one of the top receiver talents here puts you in a position to take a tackle at 38. But my concern at taking a tackle at 38 is that, you might have like a Patrick Paul or a guy who's probably graded in like the 3rd round that you can take. And that guy's going to come in and contribute and potentially be the starter. But that's not a plug him in, you're ready to rock and roll, you're good to go. My only thing going into this as the mock draft is that we don't know what free agency has looked like yet. If I have to predict and do my best job of that, it's probably they're going to sign some receiver of some quality, maybe not, a flashy guy, like maybe not a Hollywood Brown or somebody, and they maybe not trade for somebody big, but they'll bring in some quality there. So continuing to look at this, I think that if I am the Titans making this decision and this is the board that I'm staring at, it would be really hard to not take one of these tackles. I think I've done my research on Rome Odunze, and I think that he's fantastic. Big body receiver. I think he's actually perfect in the Titans offense, given maybe what they're lacking, where you can kind of slide trailing into the slot and Rome gets to play the big X receiver and go up and get those big contested balls. And I think he's fantastic for that. But if you take one of these tackles like Joe Alt in this case, then you solve your left tackle issue and then you're just good for the year. So it hurts so bad to pass, but I think that I'm taking Joe Alt in this position. We're going to go left tackle because he's just too good at what he does, and he solves the problem at left tackle instantly. Plug and play. Bill Callahan gets his hands on him, turns him into an absolute all-pro stud, and then we're off to the races. And the good news is, guys, I know, like, don't shoot me. I know Rome Odunze is the favorite pick. I know that's where I should have gone, and there's a good chance the Titans do that. And everything they've shown us might do that. But if Joe Alt is there, I think they have to consider him. And in this case, in this specific scenario, I think I have to go Joe Alt.
Yeah, I tend to agree. It's almost what will the Titans do versus what I would do discussion. And everything we've heard from Bill is it sounds like he's leaning the Dunze or Neighbors route. But as Titans fans, we watched this team play last season, and we watched how Tannehill and Levis were abused back there. And I can't watch Andre Dillard there on the left side anymore. I just can't do it. I personally have Olu Fashanu over Joe Alt by one spot. They're literally right next to each other. So I don't have an issue with either one. The only thing why I see Olu just slightly above him is just from an athletic standpoint. And I believe his mirroring ability and how he is able to hand fight and stuff, I think it's just slightly above Alt. But like I said, neck and neck. So I don't have a problem with that at all.
I mean, Olu might scream ahead because of this combine. Like, he's going to come in here and test like an absolute freak. So you might be right. And again, having another thing that the Titans did yesterday or the day before, Rain Carthon and Brian Callahan, as they were talking, one of them, I forget who made the quote, but one of them made a comment saying like, hey, you know, we're probably okay to like look at a tackle or something in the later rounds because we're confident we have a coach who can develop them. So what that tells me is that if you're looking at Olu and Alt and you're saying Alt is more polished technically, and you look at Olu and you're like, Olu's a better athlete and maybe has a little bit higher of a ceiling, then they might lean Alt or Fashanu because they can go, hey, we have Bill Callahan. Like, we can technically, we can get this guy technically sound, and he might be the best tackle out of the draft in that case. So I agree with you. I think it's 1A, 1B. And if I'm being completely honest, there's a good chance that's a receiver. And by the way, if Neighbors is there at 7, which I think I said this to BWill earlier in the week, there's not a snowball's chance in hell that he's there at 7. I firmly believe that.
I believe that.
But if for whatever reason he is, I'm sprinting I'm running as fast as I can to the podium, and it's Neighbors, just so everybody's clear, even with those 2 tackles on the board. So
what would you do? What would you do if you see Neighbors on that board and then it pops up trade is in?
Oh my God. The nightmare fuel.
I wouldn't be surprised by even a little bit either, which makes
that means that Rand got an absolute haul. That's what.
Oh yeah, and it's one of those things you just have to swallow it and move on because it's probably going to work out better for you in the long term.
Usually does, you know.
Yeah, and I put out a post yesterday. We have Callahan, we have Bill, and that's amazing. But just looking at his past and stuff, who are the premier players that have made all-pro status with him? Literally every single one of them was a first-round pick, varying from 1st to 25th overall, I think is where it kind of landed. Other than, I think it was Joel Bitonia out of the New York, and he was the 35th pick. So it was a super high second-round pick. So if you're going to make a great recipe, you got to have the ingredients. So I think going Alt or Olu in the first round is kind of the way it should span out. But if Neighbors is there, that's got my heart. But we're hopping into 38 here. Looks like decent amount. And I mean, if we're looking at this, Tyler Guyton, Patrick Paul, some of these, Troy Fontenot, these other tackles that could have filled that need potentially at this point, they're off the board. So
I like Morgan too, though.
I like Jordan Morgan. I'll be interested to see what he measures in at as far as his arm length on film. It looks shorter, but I've heard reports that he might have 35-inch arms, and if that's the case, heck yeah, I'm happy with him in the second round. That's the only fear I have. He's polished. He's been playing at Arizona for quite a while now, and is just a good prospect overall. And if that's the case, if he measures in at 35-inch arms, I think he could enter that first round discussion.
Right.
We
That's with
got
a lot of linemen.
Stoney in the comments. What is the wide receiver talk? It's all just a smoke screen. If you guys are not familiar with So Bros Network, definitely go check them out. Them at 440 Sports. They do a great job over there. But we're hopping in 38th overall pick. BWill, you're on the board.
Man,
And
I'll
let
be
me know if I
honest.
need to scroll down or anything.
No, you can scroll down a little bit. Let me see what's below Morgan. MJ Tampa. Yeah, you can scroll back up. Ain't no more. So if the Titans are in this position at 38 and Xavier Worthy, Kamari Lassiter, who I really love, Cooper Beebe, if that's how the guard from Kansas State are there, honestly, I'm trading out of this pick and trying to get a 3rd round pick somehow, some way, just to try and get into that, 75 to 100 range, because I feel like there's a ton of prospects there that I really, really, really like. Corley's there, and we can even maybe get another 4th round pick. I really like Malik Washington from Washington. I like, and this is going to sound crazy, I'm more of a fan of those guys than I am of Xavier Worthy. He just doesn't inspire a lot of confidence in me, especially when he's going to be thrust into a position that he is with the Titans, where he's going to have a lot of responsibility coming in day one. I don't know if he's the guy that can really take us over the edge and be like, okay, we got our receiver. And to me, if you don't feel that confident about a guy, you don't take them with what's almost another 1st round pick at 38. That's not too removed from the 1st round. So if I absolutely had to and we can't trade out, I'm going to take Lassiter here because I'm really high on him as a corner. I like him a lot more as a corner than I like Xavier Worthy as a wide receiver. I think Lassiter, he's proven in the SEC. He's done well in the SEC. I put a lot of stock in that against the talent that you've played and the teams that you've been on. If you are a winner, you've been a winner, you've been on great teams, you see how it's supposed to work. And I know we had Isaiah Wilson at Georgia, so I know we're a little scarred with taking Georgia products. But I really like Lassiter as a player, man, and I would take him over Worthy here. I know people are going to hate that because we're going to be 3 rounds without a receiver, and people are going to be going batshit crazy. But that's
Just
why I
like
would trade
last
out of
year.
this pick. Exactly.
Ironically, my comp for Worthy is Hollywood Brown.
Yeah, he doesn't.
That's mine as well. It's just he's a speed demon.
Yeah.
And he does that very well. He's clocked as the fastest receiver. He was the fastest player in all of college football last season, as well as the NFL. It was like 24.6, 24.3, fastest player in all of football last season. So he does it very well. He was playing with a broken hand. I got multiple reports where it was last season he played with it, and then I also got it was this season he played with it. So I think that kind of clears up the drops. Worthy, I'm pretty high on, and I've been throughout this process. I've been kind of diving into some of the analytics and stuff, and that did drop him down my list a decent amount. I still he'd be my favorite receiver on the board currently. Looks like
no doubt.
Yeah, he would be my favorite receiver
At
on the
this
board.
spot.
So Kamari Lassiter, my cornerback one, I actually made a post last night. I think Kamari Lassiter has the ability to mirror just better than anybody else in this draft. He can play in press. He is more slight build. I think he's about 6 foot 180. So he's not a big corner, but he doesn't show that on tape. The biggest knock I have for him is he might struggle with bigger receivers at the next level, but we've never even seen that in college. So I think Kamari could be CB1 in this class 5 years down the road, and he's my current CB1. So I'm happy to pick him there. And
real quick too, Jake, you said he's slight. He's considered slight by league standards, but that's not slight for the Titans. We've got corners under 5'10", nothing but.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah, he can play on the outside. And something Denard talked about is he wants versatility. He wants you to be able to do multiple things. This is a guy that can play on the outside, but also could hop into the slot and follow some of these premier receivers there. So I'd be super happy with that pick. Let's see how this all plays out. Looks like the system's running a little bit slow. And Stoney again in the comments. He says, I love it, BWill. This wide receiver class is deep, and the Titans have to get a starting corner in this class. I think we tend to agree with that. So
I just wish we could have got in this little range right here, the 70 to 100 range. Look at these receivers coming off the board. Roman Wilson, Corley's going to come off soon. I mean, you've got some. Braylon Allen got high there. Wow. Rice, he's all right. I'm not too high on Rice, but you've got some dogs in this 70 to 100 range that I'm really high on as receiver wise.
There's quite a bit of a drop off this season, especially with the NIL money coming through and stuff. A lot of guys are returning to school, so we're not seeing the overall depth in a class that we've probably seen up until this point. And I think it's kind of going to be the trend moving forward. But we'll see if we can acquire a third. It'd be awesome if we could. And it might be even moving some of these picks that we're about to talk about to move up into the third. So,
right.
Let's get these last two.
Who's y'all's, before we do this, y'all's, so this is with the assumption that, we're not taking free agent signings or anything under this. Would y'all's prefer to take a corner or a center in the draft, or would y'all take one in free agency real quick? Because we're getting into this little center range these next 2 rounds.
Yeah, so center, I think I talked about how there's not depth in this class center. I think there are some guys that you can get late into the draft that could fill an early starting role. Corner, we're about on the edge. That's kind of how I see it. Luckily we've already got Kamari, but you got to bring in another corner of free agency, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as well. I think that, if looking at the corner that fell, I'm with you guys. I really like Kamari. Maybe not at 38. I think I probably would have gone Worthy or maybe with another receiver. But at the same time, the receiver, I have not seen a receiver class this deep in as long as I can remember. I mean, there are literally like 20 guys deep that are fantastic. Like a Jalen Polk, for example. There's Malachi there. Ricky's there. Like there's so much talent even past the 100 pick. So yeah, I think I do like, maybe going in the other direction, which makes a ton of sense too. So yeah.
So good news is we're going to get one of these wide receivers here. We're not going to go with my overall rankings though, because I look, and we talked about it earlier, we've got slots. And Malachi would be my number 1 at this position. I think I have him as 2, 4, 6, 8. He'd be my wide receiver 10. And then just a little bit down that board would be Polk, then Baker. Baker is a guy, former Alabama transfer, has what it needs. And he seems to have that dog in him. We saw that in the Oklahoma game. He was the guy that turned around, ran backwards into the end zone, couldn't be guarded. But Jalen Polk, I really like what he's shown on tape thus far. And I mean, even Ricky there showed out at the Senior Bowl. This is kind of what flavor do you want kind of thing. But I'm going to go with,
Ricky's tough, right? Because like Ricky, what I've called him after watching him is he's the slowest fast guy I've ever looked at. You know what I'm saying?
He has that Amon-Ra speed where he just glides across the field.
Yeah, he just has that smoothness in his route running, and he just finds himself open and more times than not. And it's like, how did he find separation there? But I think the thing that I really like the most about him is that this guy can contest a ball. Like he can go up and find, his body positioning is really great. So yeah, I mean, it's like, what flavor do you want, right? Because Malachi, you want to talk about a slot guy, like he dominant, absolutely dominant, but his snaps on the outside were really limited. So I don't think that's necessarily what the Titans are looking for.
How do we feel about passing on a guy like Corley here? If we get a guy like Corley and we have 2 bigger slot guys like Burks and Corley, we can really run a lot of condensed splits here and try and just do it that way with Jonnu. Not Jonnu. I don't know why I said Jonnu. He reminds me of Jonnu.
Hey, he's a free agent. He might be back. We'll see.
I see people talking about it. That's why he's in my head.
We need a tight end 4.
I'll kick the tires, a little 1 year something.
But look what they do in LA, how condensed the splits are, how they have a lot of receivers of the same moldish. That's a route that we could go, and that's some history. That's a tree that Callahan is from initially. Taylor from Cincinnati was a quarterbacks coach or offense coordinator in LA under McVay. So he has a history with that scheme. Corley with Burks, you have 2 big body guys like that. I think that would be fun to watch, man.
A lot of versatility.
You got to have the versatility. But with all that being said, I got to go with Jalen Polk. He's my guy. He's got the size. He's behind Romadunze. And there's been talk with Jalen McMillan. He struggled with the injury this past season, but he's got the speed. Polk, we'll see what he tests out this week. But if he puts up a sub 4.5 40, I think this is a guy that could enter back into that even 3rd or 2nd round. But this is a guy, he's the contortionist at the catch point as well. Maybe some of the strongest hands in this draft, honestly. So I'd be happy to put him out there. I don't think he'll ever be the wide receiver 1 for you, But luckily, we need a wide receiver 1, a wide receiver 2, and probably a wide receiver 3 outside of DeAndre. So
you guys want
and
T. Higgins? That's T. Higgins at home. All right,
exactly.
that's what that
Exactly.
can be. And if he might be a guy who will benefit the most from testing well at the combine. Like if he can like get some of those athletic numbers up, like let's see what his 3-cone is, let's see what his 40 is. If he tests well there, because I think that's like the biggest knock on his game. Like he's very much like mini Rome Odunze, where he is great. He's great with his hands, can contest the ball really well. Body positioning's good. Route running's okay. It's like he just doesn't have elite size or elite speed. He's just, good.
He's got a great vertical route tree. And looking at what this team is going to look like with Will Levis, he's got the yeet cannon. You got to give him somebody that can go down the field and make a play. So that's kind of how I see it. But we're going back to you, Jonathan. We got the 5th round pick here. Looks like how they've kind of got laid out. Let me know if you want to look at a specific position. We can get this all.
Yeah, just scroll down just a little bit, nice and slow. Let's see. Man, my guy's there. Oh, God.
This 4 right here is this 5 really is kind of what I'm looking at.
This is tough,
guys.
So this is a tough part of the draft, right? Because there's going to be situations where we talked about the deep class of corner, we talked about the deep class of receiver. Mm-hmm. There's going to be guys that are starter caliber players that are going to be there in the 4th, 5th, and 6th round even. But the tough part is when you address that position earlier in the draft, it makes it a little bit harder. So I'm not super high on James Williams at this point, but I think that, that could be somebody that needs to get looked like. Cedric Gray is another guy who I've watched a little bit on and was kind of like pleasantly surprised that he was pretty good in the linebacker position. Could be one that we look at. Interior line is an interesting position too, but oh my God, just staring at Malik Washington is such a tough decision because at this point, we don't know what they're going to do in free agency, but I think it's safe to say they're going to sign somebody, right? So and then you take Jalen Polk in the 4th. So that would make it tough. Can you scroll down just a little bit more? Let's see what
Max Melton too. I mean, that's another great get.
Mekhi Wingo is interesting in the 5th round. Can you scroll up a little bit?
I mean, you got to have a running mate for Jeffrey.
So, Oh my God, I hate this. I hate having to draft and being smart and taking need instead of the players that you want. But I think, man, that's tough. I'm a little higher on Mekhi Wingo than maybe some people are. I don't think that maybe there's like a DJ Reader or maybe a Daquan Jones or something that you can go and get in free agency that probably makes sense. So you don't have to necessarily spend capital on this. My heart wants Malik Washington and just go receiver, right? Because he is so talented, and to be sitting in, at pick 144 and having him be on the board, that's really hard not to take that. But for the sake of, okay, hold on. Before I make a decision, can you show me the running backs really quick?
Yeah.
We're getting into the nitty gritty of the draft here, fellas.
A lot of them on the board. Good ones.
Really good ones. Yeah. Ray Davis is interesting too. I've been watching some of him.
How do you feel about taking running backs so early?
I don't know if the 5th round is early for a back. I think that's like right probably where they should be.
Yeah. I just think it's a lot of capital.
The 3rd last season.
Yeah, we spent a 3rd on one last year. Do we spend a 5th on one this year? Y'all think that's a bit much?
I think if they fall in love with one of these guys during the combine process or maybe a pro day process, Audric is really interesting. He plays really well, but I also feel like he has kind of a similar game to Tajay in some ways. So I don't necessarily know that that's the pick. I'm torn between Mekhi Wingo and Malik Washington, to be honest. Do you think it's completely out of pocket to go back-to-back receivers if the talent is there? Because at this point, he's not going to, you know what I'm saying?
I wouldn't mind going back-to-back receivers, especially a receiver of that talent with Malik Washington. But you can find interior D-line. I mean, we've got Jeffrey Simmons. It's not like there's a gaping hole there. There's still, even with Polk, and I mean, we still got a sizable hole at receiver.
All right. Malik Washington is too good to pass on. I'm going to go with Malik Washington. I think that if there's any other draft, if we're talking last year, if Malik Washington is in last year's draft exactly how he is today, I mean, you're talking about him like early second round, right? So
very good player.
Think that he's a really good player. He's really well rounded. The thing that I love the most about him is that he is seasoned. Like, this guy has the reps. Like, if he was in the SEC, it would have been interesting, right? Because it's like, okay, we're talking like as far as production goes, like he just is really well rounded. Like, he's not going to give you what a Rome Odunze or a big body receiver necessarily is going to give you, but he is so well rounded. And I think that type of talent is just too rich to not add to the room at this point in the draft. Like, if he's gone, then it makes sense to maybe go with one of these other positions in need. And there's plenty of great guys here, but this is, I think, a product of how the draft has kind of just handed you insane talent. And yeah, I just got to go with Malik here. And
I feel pretty confident about the receiver room with Polk and Washington added to what we have, not to mention who we grab in free agency. Like, that's a good start for year one of this project.
And Callahan did say that they were he specifically said that they're looking for a couple guys, essentially. So I think that getting a couple receivers makes a ton of sense. And I think that's kind of why I'm leaning towards probably why we don't see a major trade for a receiver, is because they're like, there's 20 receivers in this class that we really like. There's a good chance we're getting 2 of them, so.
And I mean, there's even more past Washington that I'd be happy with taking. Washington, though, it's kind of the oddie body. He's a pure slot. That's what he's going to be. He's listed at like 5'8", just under 200 pounds. So he's got a thick build, but he is a little bit more on the shorter end. So he's not going to offer you elite length. But I believe he led all of college football at the receiver position in broken tackles last season. He had like 35 broken tackles. So this is a guy that you can use on the swings. You can use him in the screen game. He's just reliable. Slider Malachi Corley. He's discounted, but he might be better than Malachi, in my personal opinion. So,
I think he has a more well-rounded game than Malachi.
I would say he's more polished than Corley.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. So this is a guy.
Sort of
he looks like he loves ball, so I think he could come in, and he's a little bit older out of the prospects than you like to see with the COVID years and everything like that. He's 23, so a little bit older than you'd like, but maybe that means him just translating to the next level faster,
a little quicker,
maybe. We got to get some players in there early, and if you're a 5th round coming in and can get starting reps early, that's a win in everybody's books as Titans go.
Yeah, people have to understand too, this is a project at the end of the day with where we're at organization wise. This is not an overnight flip the switch, start winning type thing here. We were in a pretty bad spot when Callahan got the job. So we just gotta have some patience.
They also made it seem like they really want to flip the receiver room. Like, they want their own guys. So I think it kind of like doubles down on, I don't think it's ridiculous to see a double wide receiver draft in this draft, because I think that they really want to add some significant talent. They want that receiver room to look very different than it did last season, outside of the guys who are still under like rookie deals and stuff, and D-Hop, obviously. So I think if we landed on Jalen Polk and Malik Washington in this draft, paired with our left tackle of the future, I think you're pretty happy at this point. The draft could end now, and I think the Titans would be in a really, really good spot. Not even, you still got Kamari there as well, which is a great value at 38. So I'd be really happy with where we're at.
I'm not letting Traylon Burks affect any of my draft picks either.
No,
any of my draft.
No, you just can't. Yeah,
you just. I mean,
him and Farley. That's icing on the cake if they become anything at all.
Right. So I would take that. When I say all that to say, I might Kyle Phillips too. I can see a world where we would take Corley and Malik Washington back to back, and I wouldn't be mad about it. That just would sort of show us what kind of scheme Callahan will be going into, a little more condensed splits, just really versatile guys having there, and I wouldn't be mad about that. That's worked in the NFL.
Yeah, and the good news about, again, like we cannot stress how big this receiver room is right now. Being able to have, not Stockton here at NWI or Colton Dow. Colton Dow was fantastic in special teams, and I think he made himself a roster spot for a long time. He was great. But NWI, I think that it's time to move on and add some new talent, some new faces. But that's the good thing is that, again, 15 to 20 receivers that are absolute, I don't want to call them rock stars, but bona fide starters in the league.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you can add those guys on rookie deals in later rounds, then, if those guys are contributors and they make your roster, which they would, then not only are you we're setting ourselves up long-term, right? So that way, going into 2025, 2026 and going into the new stadium, you have cap space at skill positions, which is so crucial because you have some talent there that you drafted. So I don't hate it either. I like, the more I think about it now, back-to-back receiver picks, I actually really like at 105 and 144.
Definitely. And Polk and Washington too, sort of they're contrasting enough to where that'll work.
Yep.
If that's something that you really prioritize. I don't personally, because we can't get enough talent in the receiver room at this point, but I think y'all made the right decisions there.
All right, we're back on the board. 183. Got some corners up here, interior.
Yeah.
Matt Goncalves.
Oh, my guy.
Wow. McClay Winga's still there. Yafu, Ray Davis is still there.
Just out of curiosity,
talents here.
Can you show us the centers? Can we take a look at the centers?
Yep. All right. So there's some guys here. There's specifically two. One I'm very high on, and then obviously Stoney's here in the chat. He'll go to the bat for Kingsley. I know that. That is his guy.
Yep.
As an Oklahoma fan, Andrew Rame, I'm out on Rame. He just
has a lot of pressures interior-wise, doesn't he?
He does. He just doesn't have the strength or the anchor to perform the next level, and he's not a hyper athlete like a Hunter Norzad. Personally, I haven't watched Matt Lee. I can't speak upon him, but it looks like they've got him up there in the rankings. I don't see any others though.
I like Norzad a lot.
Norzad is very athletic. This Penn State athletic department, they've got the guys in that training room because they put out guys every year that are just hyper athletes. Hunter Norzad is kind of a little bit further down the list, but he can get out in space, does well there. He can pull as a center. I believe he was a transfer from he was an Ivy Leaguer before he moved over to Penn State. So when I think of a center, I want a guy. He's a smart guy. So it wasn't Harvard. I think it was Cornell, if I remember correctly. So he's a smart dude, and that's what I want in my center. So Kingsley Egukan showed out at the Senior Bowl. So I think there's some good pieces there. And then
I like
they have him listed here too. Tanner Bortolini was a center for Wisconsin. They have him listed here as a guard. That's a guy I like as well. So there's some decent centers here.
That gives you the versatility inside that. Obviously, Carthon is like with a signing like Brunskill. I mean, that's versatility in a nutshell. But with me, center-wise, I'd much rather us go and get an experienced guy that's been in the NFL a couple years to sort of ease that pressure on Levis at the line of scrimmage. Even though Levis, that's one of his strengths, is making checks at the line of scrimmage. Having a veteran center there that's seen all the, not all the sim pressure, seen all the pressure looks, that's something that I really think is important for this Titans team. With the youth we have everywhere else, there are certain spots where you need experience. The center is one of the most important spots on the whole roster. And
it's some really good ones that are going to hit the market too. So
that too,
and they're not going to. You don't break the bank at center, right? Like $4, $5, $6 million a year, maybe for some of the more talented guys. So yeah, I think we probably go into
and that's without us even talking about Dana Brunskill. Played center over at San Francisco and did it decently well. Didn't give a sack as a center. So we know Brunskill can kind of be that multiplicity piece. So if you brought in a guard or another right tackle, or even if you moved in Radens into right guard, you could bump Brunskill to center. So you're not without anybody there, but it's something I would prefer Brunskill being a backup to center and still filling that right guard position, but it's not like we couldn't go a different direction either. So you kind of got some other.
Cohen, is he more of a right guard or a left guard? I want to say he's played right guard.
Cohen, I haven't watched a whole lot of him. I believe
Did you click on him?
Though. I don't believe they actually have any stats.
Let me look it up real quick before I do it. It's going to take 2 minutes because that's a thing that we've seen in the past with guys that move them between left and right side. Look at Radens. That's not something healthy you really like to do in the NFL. You know, it's already hard enough to play offensive line in the NFL. I don't think that's really something that sets guys up for success, as I would say. Trying to find. Looks like he plays right guard. I would take Cohen here just to. I mean, he former Alabama player, if I'm not mistaken. He has experience playing big games. You know, and he has a decent frame. I'd definitely take Cohen here, sort of shore up that offensive line and have a lot of competition on the right hand side. So
yes,
that would
tiny
give us
hands, tiny
hands.
I don't think that matters necessarily, but tiny
maybe
hands.
Maybe interior wise, it's not as important as it would be outside. But I mean, it's still an issue, and that's probably why he's dropped this far. But I like him a lot, and that would give us a lot of competition on that right hand side between Radens, MPF, and him to sort of compete along with Brunskill too. So if you can get the best two guys out of that bunch, I think we'll be okay on the right hand side as long as we shore up the left hand side as we have in the draft earlier.
So before we hop into this 7th round pick, we'll just do a little overview for anybody that's joining into the chat. Started out Joe Alt, went Kamari Lassiter, round 2, went back-to-back wide receivers with Polk and Washington, and we got Cohen at that right guard position. So we got one more pick. Let's see what's out here. This is getting – so I would pick Ray Davis here, personally. I don't – and I'm going to try to be realistic here. I don't think Ray Davis is going to be here in the 7th round. I think he goes as one of the top 3 backs this year, potentially 4. But that's a guy I'm super high on. Jacob Cowing, that was a guy I had a 4th round grade in coming into the Senior Bowl, but just got bullied, didn't show up anything. He's got the speed, and obviously we've already got the 2 wide receivers. So I would be passing on Cowing here.
Yeah, he shined against lesser talent, I think. And then when he had some of those tougher matchups, it showed. It's
a guy, if you get in space, it's awesome. If somebody's playing an off coverage, he can do that. But if you press him, it's going to dismantle him.
Right.
Another guy, if we're looking at safeties, Sione Vaki, Utah running back, Sione Vaki. This is a guy that's just a football player. It's what he does. Should show out well at the Senior Bowl. If you ask his high school coach, his best position is slot wide receiver. So this is a guy that can kind of be multiplicity and
playmaker.
He's a playmaker. And
it's the word they've used a ton.
You look at safety, and it's one of those positions that you're constantly on fire. You're either the last line of defense or you have the most space to cover. And he's got that rare safety running back versatility, as Stoney put it here. So that's one route you could go. We talked about it last week. Elijah Mola, Monty Hooker. You bring in one guy, and we're looking at guys like Geno Stone. If you put that into the rotation, be happy with that here. Layden Robinson, another great. Just want to highlight him. Nelson Caesar.
Like Caesar decent. A lot.
I like Steve. Another one of Stoney's guys.
Jake,
Travis
like
Glover.
Riker?
Not a huge fan of Riker.
I'm not drafting
not going Riker. We're gonna folk around and find out this year, I'm sure. Obviously he's not signed yet, but so Drake Stoops, another great slot. Eric All, I haven't watched him. I watched was the other Iowa tight end that was coming out and then decided to go back. I don't remember his name now, but I was higher on him, but didn't pay attention at all. So I think we might be going center here. We got Hunter Norzad on the board, and then we got Kingsley. So you got 2 dudes there. That could be great. Let's look at safeties one more time because I want to look at one more name, see if he's there. Kenny Logan would be a great safety.
Right. I like how you're keeping it realistic and not just taking Davis.
And that's kind of how you have to approach. That's how I approach mock drafts, at least. I mean, you could hop on PFF and look at those, and Marvin Harrison's there at pick 7. That's not going to happen. So you just kind of have to
I'm running with that, buddy.
Move on to the next. Yeah,
I'm running with that, buddy.
He got caught with the gas mask, and that's what it is.
That picture with Meek Mill. Come on, somebody get
him.
Yeah.
Don't take him in the first round.
So we are actually going to go safety here, and it's my guy, and they have him down ranked as the 361st player, and that's Trey Taylor out of Air Force.
Oh,
This is a
school.
guy that best safety this past season, in my opinion. Definitely highly recommend checking him out. What he won an award this past season for best secondary player in the NCAA, the Jim Thorpe Award. Great dude, great leader. Obviously, the Air Force cadet. This is the guy that can come into the league and is going to add some mass. I think he's listed about 5'11", 200-ish. This safety class in itself doesn't have a lot of high-end talent, but it does make up for that. So we're going to go Trey Taylor here, wrap it up. And let's see. But yeah, let's see what we got here. So we got Joe Alt, pick 1. Super happy with that. Kamari Lassiter, Jalen Polk, Malik Washington, Javian Cohen, and Trey Taylor.
Very good draft, fellas.
Super happy with that. Four offensive players, two secondary players, and we fixed the Tennessee Titans. That's what it is.
I think if looking back on the draft, I think at 7, I stand firm on. I think their big board is at top 5, but something in my gut tells me that Olu is just going to have this insane combine. He's going to have a really good pro day, and they're going to fall in love with the intangibles and the athlete and say, Bill, like, who do you want? He's going to be like, give me that absolute specimen. Right. And I think it's probably more likely that they go Fashanu. And the irony, I think it's pretty likely that Joe Alt is not even there at 7. And so if that's the case, then this decision is way easier. But yeah, I think if I had to redo it, I think if I had to use some foresight, I would probably go Olu there. But then again, Rome, makes some sense there too. So it's tough. It's really tough.
I sort of go to, thinking about where the Titans are at as a whole with who they. For me, I asked the question, this might be a question that they ask in the draft room as well. What can we develop the best? So if we can develop a left tackle the best, that can sort of push that need down our draft board because we have confidence in Callahan. How confident we are in the receiver room and how important is that to Brian Callahan? So the Titans are in a great spot, man. It's, the 7th overall pick. There's so much talent in this draft, and there's talent where we need it. So, we should come out better than we were when we went into it.
Yep, super happy with that. I've heard talk that we get some compensatory picks at the very end. Looks like they may have accounted for that. They gave us an extra 7, so we just threw Ray Davis in there just for the hell of it. But super happy with that. But if you're still checking us out, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure if you're on Twitter, head over to YouTube or check us out on Apple Podcasts, just Glory Day Sports. Go check us out. But we got our next draft we're going to hop into right now, which is things that make you say, hell yeah. So we got 4 picks each. We're going to dive into this. I personally only have 9 picks on my big board. So if this goes haywire, we'll be scrambling here. But I'm going to start us out with the 101. Then we're going to go to BWill, then Johnathon, and then we'll go snake draft style. So Jonathan's going back to back. But we're going to start us out. And it's just too iconic. We're gonna go with banana bread.
Oh,
banana bread.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, dude. You guys have ever seen that?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Love it.
At work, dude. So we're going banana bread 101. And
can it be one food or can it be like a collection of some others too?
You can go collection. I have no.
It can be anything. There's
no
right?
rules here.
Like it could
be
whatever
anything.
makes you. Yeah.
Whatever.
Okay.
So we're going banana bread with the 101. And then we're going to BWill with the 102.
All right, since I'll go food too with my second pick, but nothing's better to me than a good taco bar. You know what I mean? So you got all the options. You got steak, you got ground beef, you got grilled chicken, fajitas, whatever you want, man. Can't beat a taco bar, man.
So I got married last year, but we actually had a taco bar at our wedding. So
can't beat it, man.
Hell yeah.
Love it. Well, mine is not food, and it is more than a couple words, but my first round pick is going to be getting a back rub without asking for it.
Oh, yeah.
Hell yeah, bro.
Those are the greatest.
All right. And then we're back to you with the 201.
This one's tough. I don't have a long list, but the other one I have is getting like extra ranch or extra sauce in your takeout order without asking for it. the other person on the other side is just like, I got this person.
Yep. Got to look out.
Got to look out for them.
Got getting back rubs without asking, getting extra sauce without asking. So you want the free stuff. You don't want to ask.
Consideration is just nice. You're like, hell yeah, bro.
Hell yeah. All right, BWill, we got you for the second pick.
Man, I think my second pick, and this could arguably win, man, but I think a good impromptu nap. One that you didn't plan to have. You're just laying on a recliner, man, and you take just a good nap where you doze off for about 30, 40 minutes. You can't beat it. Not longer than that, though, or you're screwed.
Yeah, the day's gone at that point.
Yeah.
But getting that little 30, cat 40 nap minutes.
Yeah.
A little regenerative. Awesome. Well, we're back to me. And I've still got everything still on the board, but we're gonna go with a good rock. Just a good skipping rock. You ever had just a good rock throw across the pond? It goes all the way across. It bounces like 20 times. Hell yeah. Hell yeah, brother. So we're going to go with the good rock in round 2. And, it's back up to me. So got to come up with another one. So anytime anyone mentions Hulk Hogan, hell yeah, brother. Hell yeah, brother. So we're just going to go Hulk Hogan in round 3, and we are back to you, BWill.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't really ask for much for birthday time, like gift wise, but one of my favorite gifts is a good gift card, man. How about that? Like not one where they pigeonhole you where you have to go. Like some people would get you a Dick's Sporting Good gift card. Don't tell me where to go now. Just give me a good little spending card. Throw about $100 on there. I'm happy, man. A good gift card. You can't go wrong with that. A blank gift card about that.
Yeah. The Visas.
The Visa gift cards.
Just give me cash. Yeah. Give me the money.
Yeah. If you feel bad about giving somebody cash, just give them a gift card, man. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Even better, actually.
All right, Jonathan, you're wrapping it up. 3rd and 4th round.
Okay, so in the 3rd round, we're going to go with that first sip of a McDonald's Sprite.
Oh, yeah.
Just crisp. You guys literally just
It's got to be it's got to be exact. It's got to be McDonald's. It can't just be a Sprite.
Yeah, no. You can't just like get a Sprite from anywhere. No. It's just this McDonald's Sprite specifically. And then for the last pick for me is going to be contradictory to what just happened in our mock. And that's the Titans taking a receiver or a skill position player in the 1st round. That's a hell yeah. So if we get to draft night and there's a neighbors, hell, if it's Roma Dunze and they're like, put it in 1st round receiver, I'm still hitting that hell yeah heavy. So
yep. All right. In the 1st. Hell yeah. All right. Back to you, BWill, wrapping it up with your last pick.
Man, this is going to be a little long word-wise, but this is a hell yeah that I've had since we've got the new regime. So we can keep it Titans related. I like that. But transparency from the Titans, man. I mean, we're having more podcasts. We're having more talks from the coaches. Feels like everything's not so knit up close. It feels like we're not playing a game of poker with
draft better, play better, baby.
Exactly.
Coach better, play better.
Yeah. So we might even get film in the offseason with OTAs and stuff like some of the other teams. They have all 22 footage from training camp. We might even start getting that. So hell yeah for more transparency from the team and front office, man.
That's the best value of the draft right there.
Man, yeah. It's come mini camp and training camp, being able to see videos of players actually out there opposed to the quarterbacks dropping back and running through the bags and then throwing the same drills over and over and over again.
Yeah.
This transparency is going to be great from this front office in general. Super happy with that. So coming up to end the draft, last pick of the draft, we're going to go with, I got a couple options I can go with, but I'm going to go with just the most value pick in this draft, I think. And that's just boobs. Just keep it simple.
Hell yeah.
Oh yeah.
Doesn't matter what they look like. I don't care. Roll them up from your ankles. Still hell yeah.
The more the better, man.
Yeah. It's just value. But
that's very, very, very good value. Now that's something we were talking about, the Justin Jefferson trade. I would trade the house and pay for that.
Yeah.
I don't know about pay. Hold on there. But I would trade the house.
Get whatever you want if you pay for it.
You're right.
Well, all right, guys. I think this is a great second show. If you guys are still checking us out, make sure you head over to YouTube, subscribe, check us out on Apple Podcast. Again, just search Glory Days Sports. And we'll be back here every Thursday, 7 a.m. Central. I'll be putting out some individual videos throughout the week, and we'll be talking more combine and stuff. And I'm sure we'll have a post-combine wrap-up next week and before we dive into free agency. So thanks for joining in, guys. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Love you, mean it.
See you.